From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Organized labor has always had significant sway at the Rhode Island State House, representing tens of thousands of workers. Union leaders have advocated for policies ranging from minimum wage hikes to major construction projects, while sometimes facing criticism for their outsized influence on Ocean State politics. Now, the public face of labor is changing in Rhode Island with the retirement of longtime AFL-CIO President George Nee and the death of Council 94 President Michael Downey. This week on Newsmakers, we'll examine the future of the labor movement in the Ocean State. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White, alongside 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi, and our guests this week. We welcome Michael McDonald, president of Council 94, and Patrick Crowley. He's the incoming president of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, congratulations to both of you, first of all. And I could summarize each of your organizations, but walking on set, I thought it would be better to have both of you do it. So, Mike, we'll start with you. Council 94. Remind people who don't know, who are the workers that Council 94 represents?
So Council 94 represents a wide variety of public, private sector, and quasi-public workers throughout the state. We represent state employees. We're the largest state employees union in Rhode Island. We also represent municipal, some private sector. We recently organized the support service workers at Bryant University. And we have some quasi-public and other private sector workers, mainly in the kitchens and.
Are you majority public sector, would you say, Council 94?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so, Pat, AFL-CIO, should people think of it as an umbrella organization in labor?
Exactly. That's exactly the role that we play. So we're the coordinating body for all of the labor movement. We represent 80,000 people across the state, 275 different local affiliates. So we are, the umbrella organization for all of organized labor.
And you know, people do often think, I think nowadays, of primarily public sector labor, because that's in the news more often, but you also still have the private sector labor unions that are active and around, right?
Absolutely. So we represent private sector, public sector, we represent construction workers, we represent communication workers, healthcare workers, and teachers and state workers. So everyone that's part of a union just about is part of the AFL-CIO.
One more clarifying question for people, because even I sometimes get confused, and I've read about labor a lot. So he's Council 94, you're AFL-CIO. Like, what would be the relationship between his building and your building?
So in a lot of ways, I work for him. Okay. So, you know, our unions create the Federation of Unions to coordinate our activities. But our organization, every member is independent, autonomous, and voluntary. So in terms of what we do, it's not as if the AFL-CIO gets to dictate terms to our affiliates. It really is the other way around. We're a democratic organization. The workers and the members of the unions that are part of our organization set the policy, and we do our best to enact it.
And that's why sometimes at election time, when you guys do endorsements, sometimes you'll end up being neutral, and you will acknowledge, and George Nee used to as well, that there were different locals were with different candidates, right? And there was nobody who had the united support.
That's right. I mean, it's not as if myself or President Nee could say to anyone, this is what we're going to do.
People think you can.
People think we can. I wish we did sometimes, but really it's what the affiliates want us to do.
Mike, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing organized labor in Rhode Island right now?
I think the biggest challenge is continuing to organize the unorganized. That's a large part of what we do. We have obviously organized a large part of public sector work in Rhode Island, but branching out, going out to private sector. Obviously, it was quite some time ago that the school lunch program was decentralized and privatized, and I know not just Rhode Island Council 94, but other organizations in Rhode Island have worked very hard to organize those folks that are working for these private vendors. So I think that's really right now, something that we've been focused on, and I hope to continue to focus on that.
You brought up politics. Well, Ted did, and you answered the question. Pat, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, as you know, did not endorse in the presidential election. That's a win for Donald Trump. Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, spoke at the RNC, and internal data from the Teamsters, I'm reluctant to call it a poll, show that there's major support in the Teamsters for Donald Trump. Is that the case, would you say, labor in Rhode Island, that it's sort of leaning more right now?
Oh, no. I think here in Rhode Island, our union members, based upon some polling that we've done internally, really show that the Harris-Biden administration is really popular with union members in both private and public sector. And I'm very confident that come election time, a majority of union members are going to vote for Kamala Harris for president.
So do you think that's more of a regional effect, Pat, where like in other, in bluer states, unions remain more, because I mean, we know most of the time labor goes with the Democratic Party, depending on the election. But in other states, there's been a little more of a drift more to Trump?
No, in fact, I actually think it's the opposite way. I think over the last several years, especially since the Biden administration took over, the relationship between organized labor and working people in general with the Democratic Party has improved dramatically. And I think now that we're a generation away from NAFTA, and now that we've seen things like the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bills that are put in place, putting thousands of union members to work, even in red states, I think our organizations throughout the country have got the message out, and I think workers that were normally skeptical of a Democratic Party are starting to come back.
Do you think the Teamsters thing is an outlier then, it sounds
I
like?
definitely think it's an outlier, and what you've seen in response to that is a number of the state-based organizations within the Teamsters voting to support Harris and announcing their support.
Have either of you done an internal poll like the Teamsters did? Did Council 94, Mike?
We did not have an internal poll.
And anecdotally, you agree with what he's saying? You think
I think the Biden-Harris administration has been the best presidential, vice presidential administration for organized labor in my lifetime. I'm 42 years old. Some of the policies, the acknowledgement of the role that labor plays in our economy, in our country, and so on and so forth. But I think there's no doubt that the Biden-Harris administration has been the best administration for organized labor in my lifetime.
Let's talk about state politics a bit more. So, I'm sure even when we put this show out, people say labor, they control the state house. They're these things I don't like around politics. They're the reason for that. Do you think, Pat? I know you don't agree with people who think everything you do is bad, but do you think labor is as influential as kind of the conventional wisdom, the way people talk about union influence and around politics? Do you think it's true?
No, because if it were true, there'd be a couple of things that I would change today. And, we don't necessarily have...
Like what?
First of all, I'd make sure that we have a fairer tax system and that the people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year would pay their fair share, which right now they don't. But I think I think that misconception is there because we're very visible in this state. People see us at the State House, they see us in the media, they see us out in the street. And I think that's a benefit not just for our members, but to all working class people in Rhode Island. I wish we had the power they say that we do. But it's funny, I was just reading an old op-ed that was in a local newspaper from a business person back in the early 2000s. And the tagline on the headline was, businesses need to organize the way unions do in this state to get things done. And I take that as a compliment.
Now, I hear that from business leaders sometimes who say, well, part of it is just that the unions have their act together at election time and business is kind of all over the place.
Maybe, but I think also we've demonstrated that we're willing to work with the business community when it's appropriate and in the best interest for our members and for the state. And I think that relationship that we have, maybe it's because we're so powerful and have so many members that we're not always on opposite sides with the business community.
Actually, just to stick with that for 1 second, there was a quote George Nee had, as we mentioned, the retiring president of the AFL-CIO, in his farewell letter, and it stuck out to me. He said, quote, "We achieve our maximum effectiveness when we are pro-business, pro-growth, pro-labor, and pro-union." Pro-business and pro-growth, the first two words he used, look, phrases I associate more with the business lobby, the chamber up there. Do you share that sentiment, and then what does that mean to you?
I do share that sentiment because I think it's important for Rhode Islanders to know that if we don't have a vibrant business community, we're not going to have the jobs that our members perform. So we need to make sure that our economy is always working at peak efficiency. Now, we may have different opinions about how to get there than the business community, but we're not on opposite sides on major issues because our members earn the wages they do because we have a vibrant business community.
How do you think about that, Mike? Because there's been a lot, I would say, more energy on the lefter side of politics in recent years. You've seen, some more adversarial ways of talking about the business-labor relationship than how George put it there. How do you think about that as a younger labor leader?
Both George and Pat have it right. When the economy is doing well and businesses are doing well, we can all do well together. Obviously, the majority of my members are public sector, and the majority of my members do earn their living from tax revenue. We do a good job for the citizens of the state of Rhode Island, but I think that it's not always adversarial. Sometimes it is, unfortunately, but that's the way things are. I think more often than not, to Pat's point, how we get there is where the disagreement is, not necessarily where we need to be. I think everybody agrees we need to have a vibrant and successful economy for the benefit of everybody, public and private sector employees.
Pat, the AFL-CIO is asking voters to vote down Question 1, the Constitutional Convention. Only happens every decade, right? An opportunity to amend the state constitution. Why?
Oh, first and foremost, we don't think it's going to be a fair process. Because it's a ballot question and because what could lead to more and more ballot questions, the regulation of dark money since the Citizens United case really opens up the potential for out-of-state corporations and organizations on
With
the
what
far right.
interests?
Oh, whatever the interest they wanted.
Which ones scare you?
Oh, the things that scare me the most, quite frankly, are the rollback of environmental protections, the rollback of women's rights, especially about bodily
Do you
autonomy.
honestly think Rhode Island voters would, because again, if it gets on the ballot, it goes to the voters. Do you honestly think they would pass those initiatives, rolling back reproductive rights in Rhode Island? You're really worried about that?
I'm really worried about that because what would happen is that there'd have to be a special election to sit 75 delegates to the convention. And the ability to influence that in a low turnout election could mean that it wouldn't be reflective of everyday Rhode Islanders. This would be an unpaid position. It would likely be taking place during the day. So that means that the moms and dads that are taking care of their kids, the people that are teaching or being firefighters or police officers, wouldn't have the chance to be seated as a delegate. It really would be the opportunity for a group of people that are unreflective of Rhode Island in the values that we hold. Now, do I think at the end of the day voters would vote those things down?
Because it still goes out to a popular vote.
I don't, but the ability for that campaign to really muddy the waters and make it confusing for voters is really too much of a risk.
I'm going to prognosticate that Democrats will still control the General Assembly come January based on history. Labor usually has like an agenda, a set of things that you're going to be pushing for and advocating for. What is going to be high on the list in 2025, do you expect?
So I think number one on our list has to be to increase the minimum wage. We are going to $15 an hour on January 1st, 2025, but that's the last scheduled increase. So if we're going to continue to be competitive with Massachusetts and Connecticut, who are already ahead of us, we need to raise the minimum wage again.
What number are you going to put out?
Yeah.
Well, what I want to do is I want to get a $1 increase a year for the next 5 years. I think that's a manageable number. I think it gives the business community enough time to plan and budget for those increases. So one of the other things that I think is important for us to try to accomplish this year, we're going to make a big push to make sure that smoking is banned at Bally's casinos this year. I think it's time that we take that step. I think it's important for the people that work and visit the casinos.
Bally's does not like that. Historically, anyway.
Yeah, they don't like that.
And you have to get it through the Senate. That's the chamber where you're facing headwind, right?
It is, but I think the time is right to make sure that we frame this as a working person's issue, and we're willing to work with, with the corporations that own Bally's, and work with our friends in the legislature to understand how we can do this in a way that makes sense for all sides.
Mike, you're the new leader for Council 94. Any big initiatives or things you'll be asking lawmakers to consider next year?
I think the organization that Pat runs is a broader organization with tons of different priorities. For us, we're a little more scaled down. We're representing public employees. Obviously, we had some success in the last session, which we're very appreciative of, making some inroads on some of the pension changes that took place in 2012, helping our members to gain back a little bit more of their retirement security. That will always, for me in running this organization, be a priority for Rhode Island Council 94, continuing to claw back some of those detrimental changes that took place in 2012.
Mike, unfortunately, we have less than a minute left, but we'd be remiss if we didn't take a moment to talk about Mike Downey, the longtime leader of Council 94, well-known figure in labor, died unexpectedly last month. Who was the Mike Downey you knew?
So the Mike Downey I knew was a tenacious, passionate leader. He had a special penchant for representing the lowest paid state employees, making sure they had dignity in the workplace. But more than that, the Mike Downey I knew was a grandfather and a husband and a dad. I had the pleasure of knowing Michael Downey since I was 5 years old. I know he was proud of many of his accomplishments with his brothers and sisters through the union, but I think what President Downey was most proud of was his 9 grandchildren and the beautiful family that he was able to raise with his wife.
And he was always willing to give an interview, even if it wasn't a comfortable one. So our condolences on Mike Downey, great guy.
Thank you.
Mike McDonald, Council 94, Pat Crowley, AFL-CIO, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, what is the McKee administration doing to hold on to Hasbro? Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. On Tuesday, Governor Dan McKee joined my colleague Kim Kalunian on 12 News at 4. Kim asked the governor about the looming threat that iconic toy giant Hasbro could leave the Ocean State. But she began with what is the biggest story of 2024 and likely 25, the Washington Bridge.
Governor, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for the invite, Kim.
So let's start with conversations about the Washington Bridge. You've said that the new RFP to build the new bridge will be issued soon. When you say soon, how soon?
Well, I would, I'll leave that up to DOT and procurement to kind of determine what they're working through. But it's imminent. It's on the horizon.
Within the next week, would you say?
I would say that there'll be some action certainly within the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Within the next couple of weeks. Okay, so let's talk about the timeline for the bridge now. Demolition, as we know, has been paused, and the initial RFP didn't get any bites. Do you still think it's realistic to expect drivers to be driving over that new bridge by 2026?
Well, let's find out. I mean, we'll have to, we know that it's a complicated issue. It becomes more complicated by the day, as you can see. And so we'll see when we identify the contractor that will build the new bridge. There'll be a timeline attached to that, and we'll see what it is. We certainly want to make it as fast as we can, but as safe as we can. Realistically,
2027, 2028, what are you hoping for?
Well, again, as quickly as it can be done and as safely as it can be done, and that's why we're going through the process now. You got to knock it down before you build the new bridge. So we're focused on making sure that it gets knocked down, but also the safety factors are really critical. We got the lawsuit going on, so that's caused a little bit of a pause to protect the integrity of the lawsuit, and so we got a lot of balls in the air, Kim, and we're keeping them in the air, and the whole idea is. And then right now, actively, we want to make sure that the traffic is flowing as quickly as it can. I know there's been coverage about how we set up tow trucks. We have less accidents today. We make sure that we have a police presence there to enforce the rules for safe driving. So we have a lot of balls in the air, and we're keeping them in the air, and there's a lot of pieces that we're working on.
With safety in mind, I think there are concerns that the eastbound side might not tolerate all of the extra traffic that's going over it year after year, the wear and tear. Even today in the Boston Globe, East Providence Mayor Bob DeSilva said it's his biggest fear that something might happen with the eastbound side. Have you had conversations with RIDOT about a contingency plan?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be concerned about it. Okay. We've done the analysis. We are doing it on a regular basis. I think the next time that the bridge is going to be inspected is mid-October. It's on a schedule for inspections on an ongoing basis. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. I have many concerns about the bridge. That's not one of them.
Okay, let's talk about Hasbro. It's no secret that the company has been eyeing a new place for their headquarters now. I remember covering that back in 2018. Now it looks like they maybe have their sights set on Massachusetts. You met with their CEO last week. What's his ask of Rhode Island?
Yeah, so I met with Chris Cox along with some of his leaders. We had a good meeting, preliminary meeting, just to discuss what is on their minds. And it's in the mix that they are certainly looking for a new headquarters. Our goal is to keep that new headquarters here in Rhode Island, Pawtucket preferably, but Rhode Island in general. So we're going to continue the conversations on the issue. We're putting a team together. We're providing the opportunity for many people to weigh in with us. We're just concerned that we want to make sure that as we do it, it's kind of a real controlled effort. I think that we need to respect Hasbro has been a great partner for us in this state in 100-year history, and the Hasenfeld family. We think that their roots should be here, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
So when is the next meeting with Chris Cox?
Well, we have some internal meetings right now to make sure that we're starting to talk about how we're going to present to Hasbro. So we're meeting with Pawtucket very shortly. We had an internal meeting today, and I would think that we would get back to Hasbro on a schedule. I texted the CEO yesterday. Chris got back to me. He's looking forward to our presentation, and we're going to do a little bit of work before we meet. But we're on a short timeline. They've set a short timeline, so we'll meet that.
And just quickly before we let you go, Cox Communications is suing the state over its broadband internet plan, saying it's based on bad data and it's essentially a waste of more than $1 million in federal funds. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that a lot of work was done by a core group of, committee members that were put on there that have certainly a long history on understanding what we're trying to accomplish in the state. So Cox is entitled to kind of challenge that. We got Blue Cross challenging, the Medicaid issue right now. So that's normal process. We will work our way through. We believe that what Commerce has put together makes sense for the state, and we look forward to kind of defending that position.
All right, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, thanks so much for being here.
All right, thanks, Kim.
The governor announced this week that as of Thursday, he will be out of state for a vacation with family, and he will return October 5th. When we come back, Mr. Shekarchi goes to Washington. The Rhode Island House Speaker invited to the nation's capital to highlight his efforts to spur housing production in the Ocean State. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. This week, Rhode Island House Speaker Joe Shekarchi was on Capitol Hill to talk about his top priority, housing. The Senate Budget Committee, chaired by Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, held a hearing about housing affordability. Shekarchi testified in support of the Affordable Housing Construction Act, a bill Whitehouse introduced this week, which Whitehouse says would spur home building nationwide by steering more money into housing construction. Both Whitehouse and Shekarchi said the housing crisis has had a domino effect on other parts of the economy and quality of life in general, and argued Rhode Island is an example of a state that has prioritized the problem.
Key to addressing the shortage of units and bringing down costs for families is, as my friend Speaker Shekarchi from Rhode Island would say, production, production, production.
If we don't solve the housing crisis, how can we improve our educational outcomes or shore up the job market? How can we ensure a proper healthcare workforce, grow our economy, or lift our families out of poverty? Very simply, we can do all the policy programming we want, but if a child doesn't have a safe place to sleep at night, what does it all mean?
Now, both lawmakers touted nearly 50 new laws the Rhode Island General Assembly has passed since Shekarchi became Speaker, designed to promote housing growth in the state. That's all the time we have on this week's edition of Newsmakers. Coming up next week, Pawtucket Mayor Don Grebian will join us on set to discuss his efforts to keep Hasbro's headquarters in the city as the toy maker considers relocating to Greater Boston. I want to thank you for watching Newsmakers. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We will see you next week on Newsmakers.